Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Wholesale Change, the webcast and podcast from Distribution Strategy Group, where we provide thought leadership for wholesale change agents like you. I want to thank, first of all, our sponsors. So, Jonathan, if you go to the next slide, please. For nearly 50 years, Epicor has helped distributors stay ahead with flexible, powerful solutions designed to increase sales, streamline operations, and improve customer experience. Epicor's leading distribution ERP solutions are built specifically to meet the unique needs of wholesalers with everything you need to grow your sales, profits, and productivity while distancing yourself from your competition. Epicor is focused on the things that matter to you: work queues, PO variance queues, kitting, assembly and production orders, advanced inventory forecasting, VMI, and special project pricing. They build their software using industry best practices and 50 years of distribution experience, but Epicor solutions are far more than just tools for pick, pack, and ship. Fully cloud-based with a modern UI, Epicor offers complete, robust e-commerce solutions, powerful BI and analytics tools, modern API and EDI, value-added services, WMS, virtual assistants, and much more. You can learn more about how Epicor helps thousands of wholesalers succeed by visiting epicor.com. And I want to welcome in my co-host, the fabulous and wise Doctor of Distribution, Jonathan Bine, PhD. Jonathan, how are you today, my friend?
Fine, but I'm less fabulous and less wise than you, who are now a year older. Happy birthday.
That's just not true, my friend. You're the bomb when it comes to distribution. So if you want to go to the next slide, I want to introduce our guest. So Brent Johnstone, welcome to the show. Brent Johnstone is the managing director at ActVantage. He's down in Texas, and he is going to tell us a way around Amazon for distributors. Always an interesting topic of conversation. Brent, how are you this morning, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Ian and Jonathan.
You bet. You want to give us a quick walk through your background and sort of tell us what you've been up to in your career and how you got to the place that you're going to advise us on how to get around Amazon?
Sure. That's great. Yeah. So the interesting approach that I'm talking about here is portfolio management for distributors. And I kind of got introduced to the whole concept of portfolio management because I was in finance in the early part of my career. And I was in high net worth sales at Lehman Brothers. And basically, we saw the change in brokerage firms going from more of a transactional view and the fire your broker that we saw with the likes of E-Trade and Ameritrade. And really, it migrated into the wealth management group and really financial advisors needing to differentiate and take a more customer-driven focus in basically looking at their clients as a portfolio, as opposed to just basically trying to execute the cheapest trade. And so I did a lot of analytics around that space, which is where I got into the analytics side of the business. And that's where I've been over the last 20 years. But what was interesting is I took a little diverted path through private equity, and we bought and sold a pet supply distributor. So that's where I first got my introduction to distribution in general. But I found the same kinds of things there in the sense that you're really looking at massive portfolios in the distribution space, portfolios of customers that have different needs and interests. And you've got a whole suite of products, thousands of products and hundreds of manufacturers that you're helping to kind of package up for your clients. And it's not, in that sense, it's not that dissimilar to thinking about picking stocks, and you want to move away from like a transactional view of, hey, I need to supply this product at the cheapest price, and think more broadly about, hey, what are the needs of my customers? And how can I package up my products so that it makes it easier for us to have like that intimate dialogue where you can change the game versus Amazon, which again is very transactional oriented. They're the best in the world at artificial intelligence, AI, but there's so much data that they use, and you're not going to compete with them on data, but where you can compete with them is on intimacy with your customers And to do that, you really want to package up your customers, package up buckets of your products, and get a real good handle on how, what a portfolio looks like for a given customer.
Ian, you're on mute somehow.
How's that better? Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm button pushing disabled this morning. Anyway, so Brent, when you say package up your products and package up your customers, what does that mean? And how does that translate into real action for a distributor?
Yeah. So think about it as, Amazon is basically very, I would say they're not intimate in the sense that you're coming, there's a lot more on the fly transactions that are getting done. As a distributor, you have that dialogue, that open dialogue with your customers on a regular basis. You know the types of questions that get asked. They're not always captured in the sense of packaging up information. So in the case of industrial distributors, for example, getting a better understanding of products that have really good fill rates versus not. We know all the issues that have happened over the last year or so with the supply chain disruptions, but having a better sense of, what products are that, that are having good fill rates and not having good fill rates. That's a really important thing to package up for your clients and for your customers. Getting a sense of, for example, replacement parts versus equipment, versus really more of the consumable products, and having those buckets identified and basically packaging up your products in much more than just like a product category view. Having the key characteristics when people are making purchases and having those insights is so important when you're basically trying to solve customers' needs and problems. And what we love to do is, one of our starting blocks at ActVantage is something called customer stratification. And what customer stratification does is it tries to bucket up your customers into core customers versus the other extreme end is your marginal customers, the ones that are draining you in terms of sales, attention span, the amount of basically work that you have to go through for those customers. The high profit, high sales driven customers are your core customers, and success leaves clues. Those types of customers, if you study their patterns and the buckets of products and the specific products that they buy, they find the solutions to supply chain issues. They find the solutions for, what products are more reliable. And so if you start to kind of look at the patterns, and that's what I call kind of like an ideal portfolio. If you look at your best customers and kind of understand the way that they purchase, you can kind of create a roadmap for some of the other customers that you work with to show them what best is. And that's something that Amazon, may try to do on a one-off basis when they're trying to make a recommendation about one specific product. But if you're talking about the whole portfolio or the whole, roster of products that a core customer buys, it really paints a different picture, and it kind of gets that level of intimacy with other customers that want to know what best is.
So Brent, let me see if I'm getting this right. So you're saying define your ideal customer profile based on your core customers. Look at what they buy, how they interact with you, and use that as a blueprint to take those best practices to potentially other core customers, but to other customers within the stratification.
Correct. Yeah, that's a good example. And what's I think the important thing is that you're trying to marry up kind of your ideal products with your ideal customers and create that, the idea of an optimal portfolio. And obviously every customer is going to be a little bit different, and that's the importance of segmenting your customers. You want to know which ones, for example, might be residential focused versus commercial. You might want to know which ones are a little bit more maintenance oriented than initial installs and big start from scratch and end-to-end projects. But if you bucket up your products and some of the key characteristics which products have higher failure rates, which products, are having supply chain issues, and really getting a better sense of, on the whole, what that looks like, particularly as your best customers are navigating and solving these problems. It helps you be almost like that go-between between the customers that are earlier in their maturity and the ones that are the very best. And if you're providing that information, I think that for distribution, the exchange of information with your customers and insights is as important as basically, just the key things that everybody talks about: lowest price, fill rates. It's that expertise that always feels cliche when everybody says, "Oh, we have the most knowledgeable sales force." But if you actually systematize it and package that information up in bite-sized chunks and give people, almost like a view of that information, almost like a little bit of a mini report card of how you match up against kind of what our best customers are doing, it's game changing. It really makes them feel like, okay, they're helping me get to be my best as a whole.
So is the main idea here that you're helping them buy better?
Yeah.
Or is there more to it than just helping them buy better?
Yeah, it's helping them buy better at a higher level. It's not individual single products. It's think about the problems that you face right now in the marketplace, and getting a better sense of, where I'm strong and weak as a distributor and where I need to make changes. But also each individual customer of mine is having their own issues. And if they're having issues with with fill rates, if they're having issues with problems with certain products or deficiencies, here's another great example of a way to package things up and provide insights. Core customers tend to be at the cutting edge of basically introducing new products and new innovation. Getting a sense of how much of your product roster that you buy from me is changing from year to year. Are you buying enough new things, which could be a signal that you're on top of industry trends, or are you basically lagging? And having some insights about, the introduction of new products for a given customer. That's good for them to know in terms of, all right, am I staying on trend or am I lagging behind the trend? And so having kind of like, hey, look, X% of your product should be kind of new product introduction over the course of this year as we look at newer, our core customers and see what they're doing. If you're lagging behind that, that's really important for them to know. And that's only something that you can provide them with as a distributor. So these are key insights that only you can provide that basically they can't get on their own.
So before we talk about the benefits to the distributors, who are our listeners here primarily, let's summarize, if we could, the benefits to the end customer of you doing this portfolio management approach.
Yeah, sure. So, and it actually is kind of, it goes both ways. So the same benefits that are for the distributors are the benefits to your clients. So when you look at differentiation in a copycat market, like I said, everybody makes the claim that their sales force is is expertise. And so it becomes a cliche. But if you're actually packaging up insights for customers and saying, look, these are the trends that we're seeing. These are how you should be looking at your products and how successful you are, by bucketing them up a little bit better. You're going to be different than Amazon. You're going to be, and you're looking at their overall purchase and not just one-off purchases. And it kind of ties in with that first mover advantage. Not many distributors are doing that well right now in terms of packaging up insights and then sharing them externally. A lot of the products out there in the market are driven towards what's in it for me as a distributor. How can I drive profits? How can I drive sales growth? What we're talking about here is sharing insights about the industry down to your customers. That's where they're going to say, holy crap, you guys really truly are the experts in my industry and can help me. when it comes to more share of wallet, again, this is something where I like to say that if, as a distributor, if I have more insights about your spending across the board, and I know what you buy from me, and I know what my best customers buy from me, the more you buy from me, I'll have a better handle on you as a customer. So if you consolidate spend with me and I provide that, oversight of your spend with me, you're going to want to continue that spend. If you're splitting purchases across multiple distributors, I'm not going to provide you as much value because I don't know what you're buying away from me. So I can't give you insights about that. But if I get a more holistic view of you as a customer, I'm going to get more share of wallet. I'm going to basically be able to, encourage you to put more of your spend with me.
That's what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also, it's one of those things where I like to say, try to get as much information as you can out of a customer about what their focus is, what they spend on, what's important to them. I like to try to find out how big they are. And obviously for me, that helps me figure out what the share of wallet is that I have with them. But if spun the right way, if I'm positioning it instead as, hey, look, I need to know, are you doing large scale projects? Are you doing a lot of small scale projects? Give me a sense of the number of projects that you do per year. I'm eliciting that from my client base or my customer base under the auspices of, look, if I know more about you, I'll be able to make recommendations about specific products and the types of stuff you should be buying from me that will help you and help me. And it's another way, but it's an end around way of understanding what your share of wallet is with that customer as well. So it is that good for the goose, good for the gander. But I think what this whole approach does is it shows that you care about the customer. That's the most important thing, is basically that dialogue and packaging up things and basically feeding it back to them in that way really makes it a powerful interaction with your customers that wants them or encourages them to spend more with you.
So Brent, that kind of analysis of customer needs and asking smart sales questions, I agree a lot of distributors aren't great at that. Some of them are, some reps are good, some are not. But I think distributors have aspired to do that well for a while. Yeah. Now, part of what your firm Advantage offers don't you have a software product that's a leave behind? Is that like pricing analytics?
We do. We actually have a suite of products. It's really around 4 core analytics. Customer stratification is usually what people start with, and it is really a hub because you want to know what your core customers are doing at all times and at all costs, and you want to protect them and you want to drive everybody else up into that core category. We have inventory management optimization, and really those two pieces feed importantly into pricing optimization because you want to be marrying your core customers up with your core products. And it all feeds together in terms of how you price given products. So we like that, definitely, that the core analytics are critical, but we always start with an assessment of a business to understand your level of maturity. And that's something that you were kind of alluding to, which is different distributors are in different stages of being able to use analytics. We have one customer that's on QuickBooks. And it makes it very difficult to kind of get that level of insights when you can't even break down your customers into customer segments, which is the challenge with QuickBooks. And same thing with product categories. You really need to be bucketing up your products into categories before you even get to that layer of, and this is that next generation, which is not that difficult. You want to create real proprietary new data. So if an extra layer of categorizing products as equipment versus replacement parts versus consumables as one example. And that's not always in there. It's not always the next layer that people put in, but it gives you a better sense of buckets of products that goes beyond just product categories. And it gives you another layer of knowing what you're doing and how your customers are buying from you.
So it's really a different lens of the product categories than you'd see on a e-commerce shopping site where you have a product taxonomy.
Correct. And there are some things that Amazon can do and does do a great job of. They're better at, for example, isolating and identifying material, or sometimes color. But there are other things that distributors can and should be taking advantage of to capture that Amazon doesn't. There are all kinds of metrics, and here's how I'd think about it. I'd think about it as, what are the questions that you are answering for customers on a routine basis when they ask about a new purchase, and then not just using that on the fly to basically close a sale on that product, but think about it more holistically and saying, okay, everybody always asks me about the durability, or whether it's an outdoor versus indoor usage, right? Those are things that would be important to capture if you can as a separate field, potentially. But knowing those types of questions and answers and capturing them systematically is so valuable relative to just doing it on the fly to close one transaction. And if you start to create and think about the buckets of, those types of answers, it can be game changing. And, I'll give you the example at Royal Pet, for example. I started to realize, and it was just me as really an industry outsider early on, that customers kept asking us, is this being sold in PetSmart and Petco? Because most of our clients were little small independent pet stores. They wanted to know that some of those products were not being found in PetSmart and Petco. And so we called that independent only. We created a field where we literally tagged and flagged products as independent only products. And it became one of these kind of a little bit of an electric buzz, because we all of a sudden we're identifying products that were different, that were outside the norm, that kept getting asked about but wasn't packaged up for our customers. And so when we then ultimately turned that into an independent only catalog.
So so your organization was a master distributor, right?
Yes, correct.
What does your typical engagement look like, Brent? How long does it take? I don't know if you can offer any cost estimates. What is there's like 3 phases, I think, right? So why don't you quickly just summarize like what the engagement looks like and how long it takes, et cetera?
Yeah, sure. So our engagements are really, they can be small scale and they can be ongoing. We do discrete individual assessment projects. That's kind of one of the main things that we do is we assess capabilities. We do that particularly when companies are going out and looking to acquire new businesses. One of our flagship clients is Shore Capital Partners. This blows me away, but they have 95% IRRs on their portfolio. But they tapped us, for example, to do an assessment of a distributor that they were looking to purchase. And so we do an assessment of their capabilities. Everything starts with an assessment, typically, even if we're doing one of the projects that I talked about with our analytics, customer stratification, inventory optimization, pricing. Those are more of our SaaS offerings. So basically where we provide that level of analytics in a given discipline. And then we have kind of that forward-looking advisory stuff, which is the type of stuff that we're talking about here, which is how do I engage my clients a little bit differently and better and more uniquely. We have a lot of ongoing training, which is what I would also consider to be that like sustainable piece, that next level of maturity. And then value proposition, that's really, again, it's more of that kind of later stage maturity distributor that we work with. And the pricing it really depends, because there are small engagements that are one time, and then there are engagements that are a little bit more ongoing. And we have, and then it also could depend on the complexity of a distributor. You have distributors that are made up of 10 different business units that operate relatively independently. And then you have companies that have really consolidated, or they really work as one regional hub. So it's kind of across the board.
Got it.
So when this works well, would it be fair to say that you are cultivating more relationship buyers with your customer's customer rather than price buyers or convenience buyers?
That's right. That's right. It's absolutely a relationship-driven approach. And it's that intimacy that's so important. It's really looking at somebody's products that they're buying as a whole and saying, and then making comments or understanding where there are strengths and where there are weaknesses as we compare against other customers. And that's what's so unique about this kind of an approach, is that, distributors, they should be, and they are, the experts in any given industry. They see more. They're working with thousands of folks that are selling products, they're buying producs in the marketplace. They're at the hub. They're at the hub of trends. They're at the hub of what's hot. And it's so important to take advantage of that when you're communicating with your customer base.
Great. Okay, so we're going to wrap up. Jonathan, you want to go to the last slide? I want to make sure that everyone gets Brent's contact information. Brent, thank you for being on the call today. You can reach him at bjohnstone@actvantage.com. Jonathan's email address is up there. I was not originally going to be on the call, so mine is not, but you can reach me at iheller@distributionstrategy.com or visit our website. We do have 3 upcoming events we'd like to tell you about. On Wednesday, April 21st, our sales leader, Debbie Paul, and I will be covering the results of a survey and some other insights for State of Sales in Distribution Part 2. Please join us then. And then our next episode of the Wholesale Change Show will feature Frank Hurt, who wrote a book called The Distributors Fee-Based Services Manifesto. And then on May 19th, we will be partnering again with the National Association of Wholesaler Distributors Institute for Distribution Excellence. And we will be reviewing the results of a survey on the pandemic effects of distributors. You can go to those links to register. Brent, thank you so much for joining us today. Your website again is actvantage.com. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep.
Actvantage.com. And then Brent's contact information is there. Thank you so much for joining us for this week's Wholesale Change Show. Brent, thank you to our audience, and we'll see you next time. Doctor of Distribution, have a good day.
Back at you, bro. Thanks, Brent.
Thank you, guys. Yep.